Good afternoon, grade 5s. Last time our lesson was on metals, properties of metals. Today we're going to look at properties of non-metals. Non-metals are metals that do not have the same properties as the metals. The non-metals do not have luster. They are not shiny, but they tend to be dull. Look at this slide. On the slide, I've got wooden spoons, I've got bags, I've got the ceramic tiles, I've got clothes, bottle tops, rubber gloves, and so on. These materials are not shiny. They're a bit dull. So you find that most of your non-metals are dull. And then most metals are shiny. So metals have got the luster, non-metals don't have the luster. We have a non-metal, however, the diamond, which is the hardest material on earth. And this non-material is shiny. It gets its shine after it has been processed. This is your diamond after it has been processed, but it looks like that in its original state. Non-metals are not bendy. Okay? They don't bend easily. Non-metals are brittle. Brittle means that if you drop them, they'll break. Or if you apply force to them, they'll break. If you drop them, you end up with something that looks like that. So, if our non-metal is brittle, then it means it is not ductile. Do you remember what ductile means? Yes. Last time when we were talking about the properties of metals, we said that metals were ductile. And ductile means that it can be drawn into wire. This material cannot be drawn into wire. It's too brittle, so it cannot be drawn into wire. Non-metals are also not malleable. Remember that word. Malleable means that you cannot hammer them into sheets. You can't hammer this into sheets. As soon as you try to hammer, it shatters like that because it is brittle. Non-metals will break when we try to bend them with force. So they are going to break if you try and bend them with force. Non-metals are bad conductors of heat and electricity. Bad conductors of heat and electricity means that they do not allow electricity to pass through them. So, non-metals are called insulators, and insulators are bad conductors of heat. They also have a low melting point, so they melt easily. If you had a pot made out of plastic, for example, and you put it on the stove, it would melt because its melting point is very low. Can you think of a reason why pots and pans have wooden handles? Look at that. This one has got a wooden handle. There's another wooden handle there. Yes, the reason why we have wooden handles here is so that you are able to hold your pot and your pan from the stove to wherever you want to put it. If this handle was made out of metal, it would also conduct the heat, and this would be very hot, and you wouldn't be able to handle the pot. Okay. Unlike metals, non-metals will take different states at room temperature. Remember, all your metals are solid at room temperature, except mercury. Mercury is a metal, but it's liquid at room temperature. Non-metals will take different forms or will take different states. You have some non-metals that are solid, some are liquid, some are gas. So, at room temperature, you'll find all these three states for your non-metals. Remember in grade 4, you were taught about the 3 states of matter, and these were your solid, your liquid, and your gas. Our non-metals can be in gas form. For example, our oxygen and our hydrogen and all the other gases that we find in the atmosphere. These are in a gaseous state. They are in a gaseous state. And when you combine your oxygen and your hydrogen, water is formed. So water is a combination of oxygen and hydrogen. H2O. Alright, so water is a non-metal which is in liquid form. Our hydrogen and our oxygen are gases that are in a gaseous state. You combine these two gases, you end up with your water. And then on the other hand, this same water can be frozen into ice, and ice is water in its solid state. So you'll find that most of our metals, our non-metals, will take any of these states at room temperature. Metals are sonorous. What does that mean? Sonorous means they produce a sound. Okay, so all our metals are sonorous. Non-metals are also sonorous, but they produce dull sounds. For example, I want you to listen to the 2 sounds that I'm going to produce now. The first sound . That's sound number 1. Sound number 2. Okay, I'll do that again. Sound number 1. Sound number 2. We are saying non-metals are sonorous and they produce dull sounds. Metals are sonorous and they produce ringing sounds. So from the 2 sounds that I produced, which one do you think is a non-metal sound? Listen once again. Which one do you think is a non-metal sound? Yes, the non-metal sound is the first sound, this sound. It is producing a sound, but the sound is dull. Whereas the metal sound produces a ringing sound. Okay, and you find that in most textbooks they say that non-metals are not sonorous. I believe that they are sonorous, but then they produce a dull sound. So from what we have discussed today, we are now able to compare the metals and the non-metals. We are able to compare the properties of non-metals and metals. We said that our non-metals may be solid, liquid or gas at room temperature. This side, our metals are solid except for mercury at room temperature. Non-metals, which are solid, are brittle. Diamond is the hardest. Okay, so brittle means it can break easily. So most of our non-metals are brittle. Diamond is the hardest, and diamond shines, remember. Non-metals do not have luster. Some have a dull luster. On the other hand, metals have metallic luster. Remember, luster means shine. So your non-metals don't have the shine. Metals have got the shine. Non-metals have low melting points. Our non-metals cannot withstand heat. Okay? Can you imagine your transmission lines, the lines that bring electricity to your home, if they were made out of plastic? Would be on load shedding forever, because every time the electricity tries to pass through, it would just melt. The lines. That's why we said it's very important for you to decide what material to use by looking at the purpose of whatever item you want to produce. Okay? And then non-metals are not malleable. Remember, malleable means they cannot be hammered into sheets. Metals, on the other hand, can be hammered into sheets. And then non-metals are ductile, meaning that they cannot be drawn into wire. Non-metals cannot be drawn into wire. You cannot make wire out of clay. You can't draw it into wire. And then the next one, non-metals are bad conductors of heat and electricity. They do not allow electricity and heat to pass through them. Remember, we said they are insulators. They can be used to protect what is inside. Okay, and because they do not allow heat and electricity to pass through them, you can actually hold the handle of your pan without you getting burnt. Non-metals are not sonorous. This is what they say. Okay? And I don't agree with this. Yeah, that's an American spelling. I've got the right spelling for you at the top there. Like I said, I don't agree that they don't have sound. They do have sound, but the sound is dull. And then metals are sonorous. They produce sound. Alright. So, from what I have given you, you can actually compare the two now. And if you look closely, the non-metal properties are the complete opposite of the metal properties. So any question around properties shouldn't be a problem, because if you're given a metal and then you're asked to give the properties of the non-metal, you're just giving the opposite of what the metals have. Okay, I hope you understand what I'm talking about, and you should be in a position to do activity 5 on page 69. You can share the video with your friends so that they have some work to do during lockdown. Thank you for listening, and see you next time for the next lesson. Goodbye.